Very cool. So Bonnie, we had a question that I had emailed to you. You asked more questions. They sent back more information.
Yeah.
Did you get what I sent you this morning?
I did.
Okay, let me read through some of what they've said here. We had our triannual meeting and my son is now under OHI. Is that part of the 504 plan? They recommended specialized academic instruction for him and it's SAI. What in the hey nani nani is that and what will it look like for him? She also, because we were talking on that day about autistic-like behaviors, she'd asked about that, but then let me read what because you had asked for information about had the doctor recommended the 504 or the IEP. She sent a bunch more information, all of which isn't necessarily relevant, but this is
I don't understand why it has a 504 plan.
It says that it says at age 4, the school switched him from an IEP to a 504.
But based on the disability having no educational impact, but now she's talking about the disability including other things like attentional problems and go ahead.
Well, I just want to point out that for this child, there are, it appears that there is, I don't want to assume, but it looks like there is a diagnosis of ADHD and there is a social skill issue. There's anxiety, and he also has a physical disability. He has a club foot. There's a neurologist involved. And I don't know if that's all the relevant information that we need at this point, but he is currently on a 504, but this little guy has some challenges and mom is here with us so we can ask her anything that we need to ask her in the moment, Bonnie.
Okay, here's the thing. I feel like this student, there isn't such a thing as having other health impairment under 504, as far as I know. That you are entitled to a FAPE under 504. But this student has enough stuff going on, so it seems to me that between the ADHD and the anxiety, his disability is having an educational impact. She didn't say anything about his grades, but she said he's having social skills issues. I think he should be reevaluated for an IEP. I'm back to what I said last week, which is I don't really think 504 plans are advantageous for parents. The threshold for the assessment is low. If he's suspected of having a disability and she can show how his ADHD and his anxiety are impacting his ability to make progress in the general education curriculum, he should be able to have an IEP. So that's that little piece of business. He also could have it under other health impairment or established medical disability because he has a club foot. So that would be another possibility. I think the reason he doesn't have an IEP is because they are trying to weed out as many kids as they can and not give them IEPs. She's saying he's having problems. I don't have a lot of confidence that his social skills issues are going to get addressed without an IEP and a specific level of service. So I think she needs to gather her thoughts and write them a letter and say he needs to be assessed for a special education eligibility under other health impairment for the anxiety and the ADHD. If the anxiety is severe enough, you can also get eligibility under emotional disturbance. But he's a young kid and people tend to feel that diagnosis is a bit more stigmatizing. So I think other health impairment is appropriate. I just think that, they're trying to duck it if they can. That's what I think.
Now, let's answer her first question, which is what is specialized academic instruction?
Good question. When I started doing IEPs many years ago, this term didn't exist. It sort of made its way into the stream of things in the last, it feels like about 10 years. It can be anything. It could be like push-in services into your general ed classroom. It could be a study hall or a learning center. It's some additional level of individualized instruction that you have to have in order to access the curriculum. But if you get an IEP and it says SAI 300 minutes a week, that could just be somebody pushing into the gen ed class. SAI doesn't necessarily define a location, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. But At this point, it starts with an email to them saying, I want this child to be reevaluated. Do we
Correct.
say reevaluated for an IEP or just
We do.
reevaluate?
We do. We say we think this child should have an IEP, and here's the reasons why. His disability has an impact on his educational performance. Educational performance includes things like your social, emotional, and your adaptive skills. And so, you can say that it's not just grades and performance, academic performance that are being affected. It's the larger educational issues that bear upon his ability to socialize and learn the kinds of things that you're supposed to learn in school that get you a job. You're supposed to learn how to get along with people. You're supposed to learn how to meet new people. You're supposed to learn how to do work in groups. You're supposed to learn how to plan out your assignments and turn them in on time and things like that. The IDEA expressly provides that at age 18, the student assumes responsibility for his own educational rights. And we know that a lot of students with IEPs are going to go out into the job market, if not then, in a few years. How can you go on a job interview if you don't know how to calmly listen and make eye contact and dress properly and talk at the right volume and, do some thinking about the mindset of your interviewer so that you can make yourself attractive to him or her. These are all things that most of us got some instruction on and maybe would have benefited from more, and that includes your student.
Can I ask, Mom, does he actually have a diagnosis of autism? I see that she says he has ADHD and anxiety where he can't focus and his social skills and social emotional reciprocity. She says the clubfoot is almost non-existent, and that they did say that it was going to be in the least restrictive environment. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bonnie, they would have to say that because legally that's what they are supposed to provide is the least restrictive environment. That doesn't necessarily mean that what they're saying is the least restrictive environment is the least restrictive environment, right?
That's right. And Gen Ed could be the least restrictive environment or it could be something else.
No, we do not have a diagnosis because, okay. So, all right. Well,
I think
does it matter?
Diagnosis.
So start by getting the diagnosis.
Well, I mean, go to them when you ask them to reevaluate and say, by the way, he's also being treated for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. You need to rule out autism.
Okay. And under Child Find, they are supposed to identify him, aren't they?
Yes, I mean they're supposed to come up with a functional description of what his needs are. If they wrote goals in every area of need and they didn't identify him as autism, they might be okay. But I think the reason it's important that you have that eligibility is because autism tends to, whether it's supposed to or not, entitle people, at least in California, to more services than if you just have ADHD. And also, autism is one of the 13 eligibility categories. ADHD is not. Anxiety is not.
And I want to say to this parent, because they identified themselves as being someone who lives in the state of California on Friday, that you're the perfect candidate I would reach out directly to Bonnie at Tollner Law Offices, have a 15-minute consultation with her and see if there's a way that they can help you specifically.
Not that I want to shoot myself in the foot, but it's never 15 minutes. It's often much more than 15 minutes. I'm not able to get enough done in 15 minutes. So, if you take the trouble, I'll take the trouble.
There you go. And that's the free portion of it that she's talking about. I just didn't want to commit you to more than 15 minutes, Bonnie. I was trying to be nice to you, but I know that you're good people.
You're always nice to me.
Hey, thanks for watching Autism Live. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.